So we just talked about bubble sort, and I said bubble sort's probably not one you're ever going to use. And the reason why you're probably never going to use bubble sort, and actually let me rephrase that, you'll never actually use bubble sort in any sort of real setting. It's strictly a teaching tool. And that's because insertion sort is just strictly better. There's no situation that you're going to find that bubble sort outperforms selection sort. Sorry, insertion sort. There's another sort called selection sort that we're not doing today that is occasionally useful, but we're going to go with insertion sort because one, I think it's a bit easier to conceptualize, and two, I think it's a more useful and general algorithm. So insertion sort, again, works kind of in a way that the human brain maps sorting in its head. So you can see here in this little GIF, what it's doing is it's starting at an array of length 1, so 0, right? And it's saying, okay, from array previous to index 1 is a sorted array, right? So you have basically a subarray of length 1, and an array of length 1 is always sorted, right? So if I have an array and it's just one number in there, that's a sorted array because you can't do anything else to that. It's just sorted because there's only one number in there, right? So we're going to take advantage of that concept and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take the next number, at this case, index 1, and we're going to insert that in a sorted way. So I have a list down here. We're basically going to say everything before index 1, so basically just index 0 in this particular way, is sorted, right? So 3, this part of the array is sorted, and this part of the array is unsorted. Then we're going to take 2 here, and we're going to insert that into the sorted place for it, right? So you're going to say, is 2 larger than 3? No. Move 3 to the right, beginning of the list, insert 2 at index 0, right? So basically we're just going to be shifting those numbers over as we iterate over it. Once we get to the beginning of the list, then we know that 2 goes at the beginning of the list. Okay? Now we're going to take index 5 here. So we're going to say, is index 5 larger than 3? And then we're going to say insert after 3, in which case it is already after 3. So we don't have to do anything. So this just stays where it is. Okay? Then we're going to start at index 4 here. We're going to say, is index 4 larger than 5? No, move 5 to the right. So basically, 5 is going to end up here. And then we're going to say, is 4 larger than 3? And we're going to say yes. So basically, 4 gets inserted where 5 was. Okay? And then after that, we have 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, we're going to ask, is 1 larger than 5? Move 5 to the right. Is 1 larger than 4? Move 4 to the right. Is 1 larger than 3? Move 3 to the right. Is 1 larger than 2? No, move 2 to the right. And eventually we reach the beginning of the list, and we're going to insert it at index 0, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically we just continually shift all the numbers over until eventually we find it's like, oh, okay, this is where it goes, and then we put it there, and then we start the loop over again. Make sense?
Looks like reversed bubble sort.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah, I could definitely see that logic. But yeah, I thought this graph was actually pretty helpful because you can see them shifting the numbers over until eventually they find where it's supposed to go. Because you can see this number continually shift over. All right, so what's the big O of this? What's the worst case scenario for this particular algorithm? Well, it's going to be a reverse sorted list again, right? Because that means we're going to continually have to shift everything over as much as possible, right? Every single time that we can shift something over, we're going to have to do that until everything has to arrive at the beginning of the list from the end of the list. So reverse sorted list, worst case scenario. Best case scenario is you get a sorted list and nothing ever has to shift, right? We get one iteration through, nothing moves, and everything works great. So what's the average case scenario? Well, the average case scenario is that more or less you're going to have some sort of shuffled array, and most items are going to be compared against most other items, and you end up with basically n squared. Now, it is better than bubble sort, because it actually will do substantially less work than bubble sort does, but it's still n squared, right? It's n squared with better coefficients. Now, why is this still a useful algorithm? Let's say that you had an array that you were getting back from your database and it was mostly sorted. Let's say you knew ahead of time that is a list of length 100, and you know for a fact 98 of those are going to be in a sorted order. Insertion sort is really good for that, right? When you know that you have mostly sorted lists or totally sorted lists, insertion sort is really, really good at handling those kind of situations. And so that's when you would use an insertion sort over something like quick sort and merge sort, which have better average case, but worst best case, if that makes sense. Spatial complexity, we're still at constant time because we're not creating any additional stuff on the fly. I mean, I guess we have some swapping and moving to do, but for the most part, we're doing that like we're doing it what's in place, right? So we're have a destructive sort. So that's not too bad. And I believe it is stable. Yeah, and yeah, insertion sort can be stable as long as you implement it as such. Okay, does anyone have any questions about insertion sort?
I'm thinking it's like one of the interesting cases would be something like an event log from a server where you'd think that it would be mostly sorted by time, for example, but sometimes some events just don't follow the order because the server received them a bit late and you have to fix those. Is that a good case for using something like this?
Yeah, I could see that's something like where you're maybe getting network traffic from a server, and then maybe it's like UDP, so it can come out of order or something like that. I could see insertion sort being useful in that case. Typically, network traffic is a priority queue, right? So some network traffic is more important than other pieces of traffic, in which case priority queues always go together with heaps. We'll be talking about heaps later. But in the strict case of like you're getting a mostly sorted list of traffic back and you want to make sure that it's in the correct order, or messages or something like that. Yeah, totally. I mean, anything that's going to be mostly sorted and you need it to be totally sorted, this is a perfect use case for that. And actually, sometimes they'll actually combine these sorts together. So you'll start maybe with an insertion sort. If it goes for too many cycles, then you'll actually fall back into a quick sort. So you'll see like, hey, maybe this is already sorted. We'll check. We'll do like 3 iterations, and if we get beyond that, it's like, okay, this is too unsorted. We'll break down into a quick sort or something like that. So you can actually kind of combine these together to get the best case scenario of an insertion sort, but also cover the average case with something like a merge sort or a quick sort. So we won't be doing that today, but that actually might be a fun exercise for you to try as well.